Hey guys, TJ Vi10 Strategic Real Estate Team. Today we're making a quick video on basically negotiating the home sale, some tips and tricks you can use basically to get the seller to come down, or some of the things you can do to get better terms or more favorable terms in your offer. And then also I'm going to talk about how some agents actually negotiate and some of the mistakes you're going to want to make sure that to avoid if you're working with somebody else. I don't know how everybody else works, but I'm just going to give you a couple examples. So to start out, we're just going to talk about how some other agents negotiate and some of the things that kind of scare me. So what I'm talking about with this is I'll have properties listed and I'll get offers that come in, and all of a sudden there'll just be a magically appearing offer. I didn't know it was coming in. The agent didn't call me ahead of time. There's no cover letter to the offer explaining, hey, here's why the buyers came in at this price. So let's pretend it's a $200,000 house. Let's say the buyers come in, they lowball it at $150,000. I just had the offer there at $150,000. I have no idea where the $150,000 is coming from. The agent didn't call me ahead of time. So basically you're going to want to make sure, if you're not working with us, that your agent calls them ahead of time, kind of finds out, where the seller's at, tries to figure out the situation a little. So, at least find out if the seller wants to have a quick closing. Maybe the seller doesn't want to close for 3 months. Every little bit of information you can find out, that's going to help your position to negotiate against the seller. So if you know they want to close right away, you can say, well, we really can't, we're not in that position, but we could, but you're going to need to give us a better price. Or if they want to wait a long time, you can say, okay, we'll wait a long time, but you're going to need to give us something to wait that long. So you want to make sure that you're calling ahead of time to figure out what the situation is with the seller, where they're at. Maybe they're thinking about dropping the price. Sometimes you can get some information from realtors ahead of time. So obviously you can't call the listing agent, but your realtor can. So if you're not working with us, make sure your agent does that. And at a bare minimum, if you're not even going to call ahead of time, make sure you write a cover letter with your offer, basically explaining where your offer is coming in at. So let's pretend our example again, $200,000 house, you're going to write $150,000. If you were the seller and just got that, you're going to reject it. I mean, they're $50,000 low. Now, if you get an offer, it says $150,000. They send you a cover letter, explain, okay, we're offering you $150,000. Here's why we're giving you $150,000. Here's the comps in the area. Here's a list of repair estimates from contractors. Instead of the seller completely rejecting that, maybe you get the seller to come back at $170,000. It really should be $180,000. You just want to have a conversation and keep everything open and going clear. So, versus getting that where you don't know exactly where the buyer's coming from at all, and all of a sudden the seller goes, what the heck, where's this coming from? And all of a sudden you have a cover letter, hey, we're not trying to insult you, but here's the reason why we'd love to keep negotiations open with you. You can usually get the sellers to be on your side a little bit more that way. So at a bare minimum, if you don't want to call, or if your agent doesn't want to call them, I would say if they don't want to, find somebody else. But if they don't, make sure you at least write a cover letter if your agent doesn't. And then also in that cover letter, try and find some comparable sales that show that the value isn't worth the $200,000. So basically you're just building a picture for the seller so they can see what's going on. So that's kind of all I have to say about that, how other agents negotiate. If you want to find out how you can put us to work for you, obviously we only do this negotiating stuff for people that are our buyer clients. So you can actually put us to work for you, sign in a buyer agency for free. It doesn't cost you anything. So if you'd like to sit down and talk about that, just give me a call, 608-576-0044. Or easiest for a lot of people I know is email. My email is tj510@kw.com. We can just sit down and have a conversation. I can talk to you about what a buyer agency is, why we can do more for you in that sense. And we'll just take it from there. So next part of the video, we're going to talk about actually negotiating the sale of the home. Obviously you have the price and you have the terms. Those are the two biggest things. Obviously the price is pretty straightforward. The terms, there's so many different terms that you can put in an offer. All we're going to do is go over just a couple of my favorite terms that I use. Obviously every deal is a little bit different, so there's different terms for everything. So first let's just talk a little bit about price. Sometimes sellers, actually a lot of times sellers get so hung up on price that they'll actually overlook some of the terms of the contract. So again, let's pretend like we're going to use this $200,000 house example. If the seller won't move off that $200,000, even though you've given them great comparables and stuff showing that, but you really want the house, you can ask for a closing cost credit. So You can ask for whatever you want in the credit. Basically, that's a credit at closing that is going to be less money that you'll have to bring in to pay for your closing costs or prepaid items. So let's say you asked for $4,000, it was a $200,000 offer, that really makes it $196,000. So obviously that $4,000 difference is a little bit there. Another thing that you can use to try and knock down the price, you can actually bring in contractor repair estimates. So if you know something needs to be fixed and the seller discloses it, obviously it's easier to get those up front. But if you get the home inspection done and you find out it's going to need a new roof, the furnace is old, needs an air conditioner, it needs a new bathroom, or there's a leak somewhere and the subfloor needs to be replaced, you can get estimates to have all that done, and then you're going to take that to the seller and say, it's going to cost me $5,000 to get X, Y, and Z done. You need to come down on that purchase price. So that's another little thing that you can use. One of the biggest things that I like to use to negotiate, not actually negotiate it down, but get a buyer a better deal, because most people do get so fixed on that price, is let's pretend we have that $200,000 house today, and you're going to pay $200,000. You're paying full price, okay? Nobody wants to pay full price, I know, but you love the house. For our situation, we're going to say you pay that full $200,000. Today's interest rate is 5%. Your payment on that house is going to be, it obviously depends on the loan, but let's pretend you have a $200,000 loan at 5%, a 30-year loan. Payment's going to roughly be $1,084. What I'll do is I'll go to the seller and I'll say, okay, we'll give you $200,000, but we want you to pay a couple points to buy the interest rate down. So we're going to ask them to buy the interest rate down. We're going to try to get it down to 4.5%. Now that same $200,000 house at an interest rate of 4.5% is only $1,023. Okay, so at 5 it was $1,084. So really it doesn't seem like that big a deal, and maybe you want to get the house for $190. So let me ask you, would you rather have the house for $190 at a 5% interest rate, or $200 at a 4.5% interest rate? Do you know what would be better? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you. So if we can get that house, obviously, like I said, at 4.5% for $200,000, we're looking at a $1,023 payment. If you want to keep that same payment at $1,023, but now you have to pay today's interest rate of 5% because you couldn't get the seller to buy it down, you need to get that house purchased for the same price of a $200,000 purchase price at 4.5%. You got to get that house at $188,742 at a 5% interest rate. So sometimes it's actually cheaper to get the seller to pay those points where they think they're getting a great deal, but you're getting a better deal because you're getting a lower interest rate over the long run. So, like I said, I'm just making this a quick video here. One last thing that I like to throw in is, if we're at the higher end of that range where I think we're going to be real close to what the appraised number is, I'll actually write in the offer that the seller pay for the appraisal if it doesn't appraise high enough, or they drop the price. So if a seller is really stubborn and they don't want to be realistic to what the market is, sometimes that'll get them to open up a little bit. So again, like I said before, there's tons of different things you can use. Every offer is a little bit different. There's different terms you could put in. I mean, if somebody had a Corvette in the garage, you could write that in if you really wanted to. So like I said, lots of different little tips, tricks, and tactics you can use. If you'd like to find out how you can put us to work for you for nothing, call or email me 608-576-0044, or again, my email, tj5tenths@kw.com. We'll just sit down and have a conversation and see if we'd be a good fit for one another. So remember, when you think real estate, think strategic.